This week in the news, Helldivers 2 finally solves its size problem, Sony vs Tencent lawsuit date draws near, IGN caught lying in their Duckov review. All that and more on this week's Old Man Rages at the News for the 8th of December 2025. Before we get the show on the road, hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoy the content. We're kicking off this week with Arrowhead Studio doing the quote impossible unless everyone buys SSDs, and shrunk Helldivers 2's massive 150GB requirement to only 23GB. This was shared in a recent tech blog update, with Arrowhead explaining that the partnership with the porting studio Nickes, however you pronounce that, resulted in this drastic reduction of data. Now, as they said, this is only out as an early public technical beta, even after the several rounds of QA, so if you want to access it, you'll have to use the Steam's beta participation features. For those who are not tech savvy, the 4 steps are on the screen. For a while longer, they will also allow the large version for anyone who wants to have all that extra data, but this shouldn't last long. Moving on, we now know why Epic's CEO took such a liking to the idea of removing the AI label. Because it appears that Fortnite is filled with AI art. The tomato alone feels AI generated. Another AI generated image is the Mile High Retreat, where the Yeti has 5 toes on one foot, while only 4 on the other. Very noobish mistake, might I say so. Some people also believe that the spray is AI, but the author admitted that he just grabbed clocks out of image search and it could have been a clock made with AI. They even proved that the dude in the spray isn't AI at the very least. So they've got that going for them, which is nice. Other use of AI is in the music tied to the emote La Tata, which annoyed fans. You can even see on a pinned poll on the Fortnite subreddit, majority of the people are disliking the idea of AI. Oh boy, Tim Sweeney is really neck deep in the AI jar, ain't it? Moving on, Tencent agreed to not promote Light of Mortiram or run public tests, as Sony's Horizon lawsuit heads towards a 2026 hearing. So, Tencent agreed to not do any marketing or public testing for its game, Light of Mortiram, which Sony alleges looks like Horizon. While the preliminary injunction is being argued, the game will not be launched before Q4 of 2027. According to the stipulation proposed orders, Sony and Tencent entities jointly asked the court to extend their briefing schedule and move the hearing on both the motion to dismiss and the injunction request to the same day in January 2026. Now, what day is that? That will be the 29th of January. So we'll know more around that time. Tencent is still arguing that Sony wants a monopoly on common genre ideas like red-haired heroes and robot creatures, while Sony is asking for an order that would block Tencent and their future games from using a red-haired, quote, tribal warrior huntress that looks similarly like Aloy. Who's in the right? You'll be the judge. Moving on, Japanese game developers face ridiculously high font license fees following US acquisition of major domestic providers. The service Fontworks discontinued its game license plan as of the 28th of November, and its replacement, offered through Frontworks' new US-owned parent company, Monotype, comes with an annual price tag more than 50 times higher, according to GameSpark. But that's not where the pain ends. The old price point was around $380 per year, however, the newer plans would cost over $20,000 per year. The bigger problem is that the constraint includes a 25,000 user cap for applications using provided font, which, as GameSpark pointed out, is completely unrealistic for most titles nowadays. The reason why this is a problem is because of Japanese sheer amount of characters, which makes it difficult for developers to find a high-quality font. And according to Japanese web and UI/UX designer Yamanaka, developers of ongoing live service games are likely to take the biggest blow from this. They will be forced to redo integration, QA process, and re-release in a very short period of time. On top of that, there will be even more workloads because they will need to update websites, advertisement, and other related content. According to GameSpark, if they aren't able to do that or renew the expensive license, they will not be able to legally update. The biggest example is FGO, which has 10 years worth of content. And if you're to believe, it's not that big of a problem. Petrico wrote on X at the start of the year that FGO contains just shy of 30,560,000 Japanese characters. And to give you a rough idea, that's about 9 Bibles. Let that sink in. This ultimately is not something that can be fixed with a snap of a finger. And remember, this is since January 2025. And we are now in December. Yeah, there's probably even more added on top of that, considering what? Anybody who used a font from them had just shy of a year to get everything sorted out. Man, I don't want to be in their shoes. Speaking of not wanting to be in the shoes of people, the voice actors for Final Fantasy VII Aerith had enough of creeps tagging voice actors with smut featuring their characters. Oh yeah, the internet is doing its thing again, I see. This began after Brianna White stalked K-pop Demon Hunters actor Rei Mai discovering adult fan fiction featuring her character Zoe. In response, White suggested fans in general had, quote, forgotten the meaning of the word inappropriate. Welcome to the internet. We got Rule 34, and it holds true no matter what the media is. But anyways, I digress. She also, quote, retweeted it, writing, maybe let's normalize not tagging voice actors and smut on their characters. Some of y'all have forgotten the meaning of the word inappropriate. Yeah, I can get behind that. I mean, it's called common sense. Now, IGN did point out many of the replies mentioned how Amy had gone looking for the content purposefully. So, you know, it's fine, like, looking for that content, but yeah. On one hand, I can understand artists don't want to see their, like, the characters they voice in, well, stuff that will get me banned on YouTube, but it's fine in women fictional novels situations. Let's put it like that. But I can see the funny side of it since I kind of grew up on the internet. But anyways, I digress, because I'm gonna go off the deep end if I continue this. She also wrote, I'm so associated with Final Fantasy VII that it gets shown to me every single day anyway. As someone said earlier, it's a matter of consent, and it can be almost impossible to know what exactly is acceptable or not to an individual just from knowing their social media persona. But in the end, she gave up and wrote, alright, you all have spoken and I hear you. The vid I saw did not make this clear. Point stands, not just for Rhea Mami, carry on. I also like to add to all of that, social media has the ability to block people, hide posts from them. If you don't want to see that shit done with or to a character you're voicing, and somebody keeps sending you that, block him. Simple as that. Moving on. Where Ruin's Meat players are managing to trick NPCs into giving them rewards by using the Solid Snake method. Now, that got me curious, so I looked at it, and it's from PC Games N. Alright, grab your hard hats, this is gonna be a shit show, probably. They claim the AI chatbot NPCs sparked concerns, but looking into their article, it's literally just a single X post and a Reddit post poking fun at the AI. Or to put it in simpler terms, they made the mother of all omelets here. Anyways, They finally got on to the point where the first method is just repeating the last few words of anything anyone said. This was discovered by the redditor Hackix. Other players in the thread also mentioned how you can use brackets to denote actions. Doing that, you can just make the AI believe the action is done and you can get the reward. That's creative use of game mechanics if I've ever seen one. I mean, it's not on the level of Saturday bombing a platform to prevent it from despawning, but or was it to get it to respawn after it got despawned? I can't remember, it's been a long time. But anyways, if you're a World of Warcraft fan, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, boy, do I recommend going down that rabbit hole. Just see what kind of degeneracy and stupidity players from back in the days were getting into. Additionally, before we get on with the next story, the game last month managed to achieve 9 million players in 2 weeks. Bet the journalists are crying after hearing those news. Moving on. Turns out that if Saudi Arabia buys out EA, they'll own 93.4% of the company, which for all intents and purposes is all of it. In October, EA announced it will go private via a $55 billion leverage buyout from 3 investment firms: the Saudis, Jared Kushner's affinity partner, and Silver Lake. However, according to the Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia's PIF will own 93.4% of EA, Silver Lake will own 5.5%, and Affinity Partners will own 1.1%. With this large of a share, PC Gamer speculates that EA CEO Andrew Wilson will not be able to keep EA's values and commitment to players and fans the same like he promised back in October. I'm not sure what commitment to fans we're looking at here, but yeah, the last few games from EA didn't look so hot. Let's put it like that. Moving on, and to no one's surprise, IGN made a very poor decision and allowed this poor excuse of a review to be published. The X-Post got community noted with a link towards OnePeg's post showing that the review is lying. Shocker, I know. OnePeg wrote, and I quote, "He stated he spent 10 hours in PvP and quit to play PvE due to cheaters," which checks out and is confirmed with a screenshot that he indeed did not spend 10 hours because he only had 2 raids. The IGN reviewer in the video review even claimed that the Dextrack camper was cheating. Mind you, the person that killed him is just another guy who spent an unholy amount of time into the game and got good at it. Not only that, but over here you can clearly see he wrote 120 hours, and looking into the reviewer's account, yet again, you can clearly see that it says 52 hours and 27 minutes. OnePeg claims that most of the time is spent in the reviewer's stash. However, I cannot validate that because I don't know anything about Escape from Tarkov in the first place. Now, to give credit to OnePeg, he also admits that Tarkov has jank, poor optimization, and other problems on top of that. But that doesn't allow IGN's reviewers to lie to consumers just like that. If you want his breakdown, check out his videos because he obviously understands the game far better than me. Moving on, Metroid Prime 4 got released and it's looking good for the game itself. But that's where the good news ends. While exploring the desert, there is basically no music whatsoever. Not only that, but if you buy the $30 amiibo for Metroid Prime 4, you get to select the music playing while driving. Now, if you don't want to spend $30 on an amiibo, you have to go through the desert without any music, unless you get the logbook to 100%. Or in simpler terms, New Game Plus. Yes, they locked the radio function. Something that comes free with the GTA games, Saints Row games as well, mind you, behind a $30 collectible, or 100%ing the game. Nintendo is hella fucking greedy. Now, that's not the only thing the amiibo does. If the translation is correct, once a day you can activate a shield that prevents damage, and when you activate said shield, Samus will heal fully. Thanks Nintendo, we wanted to buy cheats that required a physical object. Moving on, Hytale is skipping the initial Steam launch, and it looks like it has a good reason. This came from a Hytale FAQ where they wrote a lengthy explanation to why it won't be on Steam. No, not initially. We want to spend our time in early access working with our existing community to improve the game, rather than chasing a flood of cold first impressions that could overcorrect the game's direction. We don't shy away from honest, negative criticism. We have been very critical of the state of the game ourselves on social media. We simply want the first steps of our journey to be influenced by informed players rather than large-scale first impressions from those unfamiliar with the game's development background. Steam is a great platform and marketing tool, but one that we might never need. This doesn't mean Hytale will never be on Steam. Right now, we don't see the need for it, as we want to keep our launch closer to our community. It's important to note that Steam currently doesn't support some of our modding features. We will be in contact with Valve in the near future to see what's possible. This is the new writing because, as you can see, Insider Gaming took it as, quote, they don't want negative reviews because of how it was previously written. They even clarified that here. Who would have thought? And don't worry, there are plans for a console release at a later stage, but it will take time and resources, which is something they don't want to invest into right now. I mean, yeah, focus all of your resources on getting a good game out and then figure out how to port said good game when you have a complete feature set. Kinda smart, don't you think? Moving on, Valve's compatibility layer for running Android games on Linux gets an official name in the Steam documentation. It's Lepton. Not only that, but the Steam Deck lead reveals Valve is funding ARM compatibility for Windows games to expand PC gaming and release ultra portables in the future. Okay, me likey. In an interview with The Verge, Steam Deck and SteamOS lead Pierre-Luc Griffiths, I butchered the last name, revealed that Valve has been secretly funding Fex, an open source project to bring Windows games to ARM for almost a decade. Griffiths explained that the project pushes to, quote, reduce barriers for users not having to worry about what games to run. With ARM, a large number of Steam games should be able to run on additional devices, including low-powered laptops, tablets, and even phones, hopefully in the future. Griffiths didn't confirm specifics about what Valve is working on, but they are excited about creating a potential ARM-based device, and said, I think that it paves the way for a bunch of different, maybe ultra portable, maybe more powerful laptops being ARM-based and using different offerings in that segment. Handhelds, there's a lot of potential for ARM, of course, and one might see desktop chips as well at some point in the ARM world. The rest of the article is more text stuff, so if you want to read it, go for it. And to cap things off, let's cover a bunch of fumbles that happened during the week. Let's start things off with Grums, who has updates on Ghost of Yotei sales after Black Friday. It managed to hit 4 million units sold, which is impressive. However, it's still 20% less than Tsushima. Now, keep in mind, Tsushima was released in July, far from Yotei, which is released 2 months, give or take, before Black Friday. I have a feeling that this is gonna be a wound that keeps getting salted all over. The second case of fumbles was a special set of nutcases, because there's apparently backlash from Marvel Rivals Season 5, because it's not featuring queer couples. Ah yes, the gamer shout out that slop. They start off by writing that Season 5 is out and they added Gambit and Rogue to the game, a fitting representation for a season based around love and relationship. They also point out how alleged fans noticed there are no queer relationships with the promotional material and showing off these 2 tweets. Now, what would be the point of adding queer relationships to the game? Fuck if I know, but apparently they aren't the only ones drinking the stupid juice. Geeks and gamers over here are also on the same bandwagon. Also, worth vomiting an article that is also asking for queer couples. Just as an FYI, the Geeks and Gamers article is, well, give or take 70% copy-pasted from the Gamers article, so yeah. They only added an additional tweet from Marvel rivals Intel. Very original and daring, I'd say. Those two outlets sure as hell are mad at game with pretty women that did amazingly. The third case is apparently Amazon's Tomb Raider and its set course to, quote, reinvent the franchise. For those who are new here, those are buzzwords for, and I quote, I'm about to mess this franchise up, hold my beer. This was spotted by Eurogamer, where Story Kitchen's website was updated to provide new details about Amazon's Tomb Raider series. The updated list reveals a new deal between Story Kitchen, Crystal Dynamics, and Amazon MGM Studio. Will, quote, reinvent the franchise on a massive scale. Not only that, but the Tomb Raider show will interconnect the live-action television series and video games into one unified storytelling universe. Ah, great! Slop tying into slop tying into slop. Perfect. The Amazon series will be led by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who is known for Fleabag, and they will supposedly reimagine the Lara Croft universe. Can we go back to the time where Lara Croft had pixelated tits, and you were able to lock a butler in the fridge because he was chasing after you for, I don't know, coding reasons? But alas, we can't. And for the last Fumble, we have Eidos Montreal, with what else? Even more layoffs planned. Over last week, a number of former employees took to LinkedIn to announce that they were no longer with the company. In total, at least a dozen or more people are now looking for work. And yes, your memory serves you correct. This is the second known wave of job cuts after the studio previously let go 75 people back in March. Nice! Not only that, but multiple sources explained to Insider Gaming most of the studio's projects have been cancelled. Eidos Montreal right now is working with Microsoft and Xbox games like Grounded 2 and Fable. Yeah, if they're working on the new Fable, I'm gonna save my verdict for when we get more info on the game, but if they were working on Fable at the point where the original trailer was released, then yikes. But anyways, I digress. There was also another internal project that started development back in 2019, which has no way of recouping its current costs. 6 years down the drain for a struggling studio. That ain't good. And as per usual, Insider Gaming tried to reach out to both Eidos Montreal and its parent company Embracer, but they got on radio silence. Make of that what you will. And on that note, that's all for this week. You know the drill. Like, favorite, subscribe, whatever the balls you can do now on YouTube at this point. And I'll see you next time.